Hello and welcome to another 140k Imperial Guard Tactics video. Now before we get into today's video, I would like to say a big thank you to Alan Carey for sending in some awesome pictures of his Praetorian Guard. Absolutely love the Praetorian Guard. They almost have as good uniforms as the Mordians. You know what? Let's be fair to them. They've got more uniforms as good as the Mordians. It's purely what preference of headwear you have. So thanks for these pictures, Alan. Absolutely fantastic. Love seeing some of the classic Mordians. Would love to know where you got your movement trays from. I'm in town for some new movement trays at the moment, so it'd be really cool to be able to pick some up. If anyone else has got any fantastic pictures that they would like me to use in my videos, then please post them on my Facebook page or email them to me, and there will be links and email addresses down in the description below. I tend to alternate between using pictures that have been used on Facebook, or sent in on Facebook, and pictures that have been sent in by email 1 week and then the next week. So just to let you know, there can be a little bit of a delay between when you send your pictures in and when I use them, because I do get quite a lot of pictures. Anyway, last bit of shameless plug, shameless admin. If you want to support the channel, there is a Patreon page for the channel. I always get a bit embarrassed about Patreon and whatnot, just because I'm a bit old school, money and all that kind of stuff. But if you are interested in supporting it, I hugely appreciate it. Honestly, I know you hear this with every channel, but truly the channel wouldn't be where it is, and it wouldn't have been able to grow anywhere near the amount it has done without the support of the Patrons. I mean, all the Patreon money goes directly into the channel, and I use it to I just let it build up, and then when I need to buy like a new camera or some new terrain or some new models for a new army or go to a tournament, it just gets, that's what it gets used for. So I'm pretty transparent about the whole thing. And if you are interested in supporting, then please take a look at the Patreon page. Anyway, that's 2 minutes of introductory waffle over and done with. Let's get into today's mad video. So what I'm going to be taking a look at today, guys, is I'm going to be proposing a controversial idea. I mean, controversial to say the least. I mean, if you think the G-Solar Cult Tactics stuff was controversial, then you ain't seen nothing yet, son. Although you may have worked out what I'm going to be talking about from the title of this video. So damn spoilers in the title. We're going to be looking at the old Vanquisher cannon. And I can actually legitimately say the old Vanquisher cannon because it's one of the oldest Legion Rust variants. It was one of the first ones we got outside of the regular old battle cannon, but we're going to be looking at the Vanquisher, and we're going to be actually considering it as an option, as not a total waste of time. Now, some of you might be saying, "Morning Glory, have you lost it? Are you bonkers, mate?" And you could be very well correct, but I think that the battle cannon, whilst a true, loyal, old faithful, jack of all trades weapon, I think its time is beginning to be obsolete. In all honesty, it's becoming obsolete, and this is due to a number of factors. And I think that the Vanquisher cannon may actually, in today's meta, in today's fast-paced executive lifestyle, I think the Vanquisher cannon may be in. So, and that's the premise. Now I have to justify it, or I could just say, believe me, and if you question it, I'll get the commissar on you. No, right, I have to prove it. The commissar says I have to prove it, otherwise I'm the one that's going to get shot. So, what is today's meta? What is the 9th edition meta? We all know it is elite infantry. The more elite, the better. We also know that there is a prevalence of ignoring damage 1. Or feel no pains, that essentially provide the same effect as ignoring 1 damage. So we've got Marines running around with master apothecaries, giving everyone 5+ saves and getting people back up. But all those Marines have got 2 or 3 wounds now. You've got Intercessors which have got 2 wounds, and Heavy Intercessors are going to have 3 wounds. You've got Death Guard, which are also, obviously ignoring damage, ignoring a damage, and they can get a 6 at Feel No Pain pretty easily. You have now the announcements of Dark Angels, and they are going to be rocking loads of bikes and loads of Terminators. The bikes are an interesting one. They're all going to have 3 wounds. All going to have, solid 3 wounds. And so a lot of the traditional options, and then obviously you've got things like Necrons, which have got reanimation protocol, which that's a bit of a different one. Battle cannon's probably actually pretty good against Necrons in that regard. But out of the main 3 factions that have currently been released for 9th edition, or main 4 factions, including Necrons, 3 of them are all about having having a big core of high wound models, either bikes or infantry. And the problem with the moment you either get 3 wounds as your standard, or you get 2 wounds ignoring 1 damage as your standard, or you start having 2 wounds and ignoring feel no pains as your standard, the variable damage of things like the battle cannon, and even the flat damage too of things like the executioner plasma cannon, which the executioner plasma cannon has been a fantastic choice for a long time, they start that flat damage 2 or that average damage 2 starts becoming very underwhelming. Very underwhelming. So if a battle cannon does an average of 2 damage, which is D3 damage, then when you start taking into account like 5 plus feel no pain, you start taking in, and we've all been there when someone's got 5 plus feel no pain, it feels like they've got a 2 plus feel no pain. We've all been there. It's just a psychological thing that we all know. It just happens more than it should do, but it just seems to be right. But the end result is that your battle cannons, like I said, they feel very underwhelming, and this is why it's now the addition of go big or go home. This is why I've been putting melter guns on a lot of my weapons. It's why I've been reevaluating a lot of my squads. It's why I've been reevaluating the rapid fire doctrine for my Mordians, because I've got a lot of plasma, and plasma is still pretty good, but every codex that comes out, it gets a little bit less effective because it's flat damage 2 a lot of the time. So it's tricky, right? But the problem with running a lot of melter is it tends to be short range, and we're already on smaller board sizes. So the way to counter these high wound, ignoring damage bozos, is to use things that do a lot of wounds, just to totally overwhelm the energy shield, or totally just to break through. But the problem with a lot of the high damage weapons is they're quite swingy on a d6 damage, or they're like a las cannon, or if you want a bit more reliability, like with the old melter, you have to get close. You got to get closer to the whites of their eyes, which is not a position that we really want to be in. Even with the middle of the battlefield brawl for the primary objectives, we can avoid being that close and still score points. That would be ideal, right? Enter, left from stage, the Vanquisher cannon. It has essentially got the melter rule. It is essentially a 72-inch range melter gun. Now, it's only AP -3 rather than AP -4 as a melter, but for that -1, for that lack of AP, it's very slight lack of AP, it's still AP -3, you get 72-inch range. Now, you don't have to be within half range for its special rule to kick in. So the Vanquisher cannon very simply has the following rule. Roll 2 dice when inflicting damage with its weapon and discard the lowest result. So you pick 2d6, roll 2d6 with the highest for your damage, which is good. Okay, it's really nice because it gives a bit of reliability. So you've got a nice 72-inch range. You can combine this with some other decent long range firepower and your sponsons or las cannon in the hull, for example, or you just keep it simple. But we won't look at the extras at the moment. We'll just look at the turret. So let's do a bit of math hammer, right? That's what you've got to back these things up with hard stats. I don't need platitudes. I need hard stats, data. That's what we're all saying. We're in the guard, right? That's what we need. That's the kind of player that we are, right? I've put some figures into the old cogitator, and this is what it's coming out with. So if we take an average, let's say we're shooting with the Lemur's Tank Commander. Okay, let's not mess around. All right. Let's use the old math hammer. So for the battle cannon first, 7 shots. That's the average on 2d6. You'll get 7 shots. You have ballistic skill of 3+, and let's assume you have put the order gunner's kill on sight on yourself, so that you will be rerolling 1s to hit. So hitting on 3s, rerolling 1s. You have a weapon strength of 8, an AP of 2, and your average damage is 2. Alright, now let's shoot this at a Plague Marine. Okay, this is the thing I've gone for. I've gone for the Plague Marine as the new kind of standard, because either you ignore the damage or whatever, but it's a good standard now for the tough troops. You know, either you're a bike with 3 wounds or you're a Plague Marine with 2 wounds ignoring 1 damage, right? That's the new... They're the new hotness coming up with Raven Guard and Death Guard. Not Raven Guard, Dark Angels and Death Guard, right? So the toughness is 5, the wounds is 2, and the save is a 3+. I mean, that's pretty average, you know, even with taking into account like heavy intercessors and stuff like that. I've also thrown in a 6+ feel no pain on there. So the reason I've thrown in the 6+ feel no pain is because either you're looking at like an intercessor which has got toughness of 4 but a 5+ feel no pain, or you've got a Plague Marine who's got toughness of 5 but a 6+ feel no pain. And my thinking is or you've got a bike which hasn't got a feel no pain but has got 3 wounds at toughness 5. So my averaging it all out, I went, you know what, I think the Plague Marine's got the most average stats, right? Comment down below if you think that this is fundamentally flawed, because I'm always happy to learn and try and do better. Also, I like people telling me off. It's probably something from my childhood. Anyway, so if we go to that, you get 7 shots with your old rerolls. You're going to get about 5.4 hits, which is going to cause 3.6 wounds, which is going to lead to 2.4 unsaved wounds, which is going to be a total. So once blah 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 blah, total damage of 2. Okay, total damage of 2. Which leads to 1 dead model, just about. 2.016 for dead models 1.008. Right. Let's put the Vanquisher in. So, the Vanquisher gets 2 shots of Ballistic Skill 3+, rerolling 1s, its strength 8, its AP -3, and I've put the average damage as 4 on 2 dice, picking the highest. I just basically rounded up 3.5. Could be higher, but I thought that was the fairest way of doing it. Toughness of 5, shooting at a target of toughness of 5, 2 wounds, 3+ save, and a 6+ feel no pain. So 2 shots, you should get 1.556 hits. So you've got a greater than... you are more likely to get 2 hits than you are to get 1 hit. That will cause a wound. Which has got a very high chance of being an unsaved wound. It's got an 86.4% chance of being an unsaved wound. And the total damage is 2.881, which is 0.881 of a damage more than the battle cannon. So straight up, if you look at pure numbers and split, and we're just looking, we're not looking at, oh, you can't get 1.5 of a hit. Fine, pure numbers. The total damage from a Vanquisher cannon shooting at a Plague Marine or the new standard baseline model is 2.8 versus the battle cannon, which is 2. Now that is useful because if we just round it, let's do it in simple napkin math hammer. 1 is doing an average of about 2 wounds, and 1 is doing 2 damage, and 1 is doing an average of 3 damage. Okay, so why is that important? Well, if you're doing 3 damage to a Plague Marine, then he has to get 2 6s to live, essentially, or he's not going to do, or he's going to die. Okay, if you do an average of 2 damage to a Plague Marine, and remember we've already taken into account the -1 damage here, by the way. That's already been taken into account. Then he only has to roll one of those 6s, and he lives. So there's kind of 2 ways of approaching it. You've got pure maths, and then you've got like pure maths with a little bit of realism sprinkled in. Now, some of you are going to say, that's all well and good, Mr. MG, but we all know that the Vanquisher is still a terrible option. We know the battle cannon is a bit of a jack of all trades, and you are shooting in a specific thing. And yeah, that is true. I am shooting a very specific meta-like target. We don't all play in the meta, right? But some of you are going to say, but you've forgotten about the Demolisher cannon, which also does D6 damage. And I would go, yes, that is very, very true. And when you run the stats for the Demolisher Cannon, 7 shots with all the hits and the strengths, and the strength 10 Demolisher Cannon, it's AP -3, and it's going to do an average of 2.5 damage per shot when you take into account the -1 damage. And when you add all that up, the average damage from a Demolisher Cannon firing is 7.8, which is 8 damage, which is 3 to 4 dead Plague Marines a turn. So there's no doubt, the Vanquisher Cannon kills like 1 a turn, and the Demolisher Cannon can kill 3 to 4 models a turn on average. So there's no comparison there. Okay, there is, however, 2 points which aren't really reflected in the math hammer, which I think are very important to try and understand. The first one is Demolisher Cannons are short-ranged. Okay, Demolisher Cannons are, that's 3 factors I just thought. They are short-ranged, which means, yes, you will use them, but there's a very good chance, that you will only get to fire them once. Because once they are in range, more than likely the enemy is in range, or the enemy will be in a very good position to counter you. Either, if you're within 24-inch range, then they're going to be in range with some of their big stuff. A regular melter gun, you don't see too many regular melter guns running around these days. A lot of the time it's multi-melters, or some kind of multi-melter-like equivalent. Sisters are real strong, and they get multi-melters for days everywhere. Okay? So you might lob that Demolisher Cannon shell and blow away half a Plague Marine squad, fine. Or blow away most of the sister squad, fine. But they are going to turn around and they are going to be in range of their own weapons, and they are going to delete your Demolisher. If you're in range of Demolisher Cannon, those Eradicators are in range, and they are going to eradicate you. They will live up to their name. And so so that's what you've got to decide with the Demolisher. It's going to go in there and it's going to give the enemy the beans. It's going to load an actual dustbin of explosives into its cannon and just plop it on someone. But it's more than likely going to get to do it once, maybe twice, and then after that, it's going to start being it's going to be shot at and dead, or shot at and degraded, and its effectiveness is going to plummet. So that's the first factor. The Vanquisher has, on the second side of that, on the other side, is long range. So the Vanquisher might only kill 1 model a turn. It might just be launching like a uranium dart into a Plague Marine a turn, and the average is that it kills 1 Plague Marine a turn every turn for 5 turns. And the end result is that it kills 5 models. So that's kind of what you have to ask yourself. The Demolisher Cannon can do it in one go, and will kill 3, maybe 4 models, but the Vanquisher Cannon will have 5 turns. More than likely, because then the second factor comes in, which is intimidation. Everyone knows that Demolisher Cannons are the meta thing. They're the thing that Guard need to do to win games. So they are going to be targeted straight away, and they're going to be top priority. However, even casual observers are aware that the Vanquisher Cannon isn't very good. Okay? Or should I say that there is a general perception that the Vanquisher Cannon isn't very good. Okay? So that becomes a low priority target. So if you're taking things like Vanquishers and Demolishers in the same list, the enemy is definitely going to target your Demolishers first. It's going to be in his face, and he's going to be feeling it in 1 or 2 turns. He's going to be feeling that damage. So the Vanquisher Cannon will be sat at the back, which means it has a greater chance of sitting there and just plinking a wound off. Not a wound off, but plinking a model off every turn. And the new Plague Marines are like, what, 20... I think they're 28 points a model? 24, 28 points a model? So if you kill 5 Plague Marines over the course of a game, you're going to be getting almost 150 points back, which is just from your Vanquisher Cannon. You then start potentially putting some sponsons on this thing, and you don't want the price to jack up too much, but you do also want to basically try and get a bit more points back. And for the price of you know, for the price of a couple of extra plague marines, you can put 3 heavy bolters on your Leman Russ. And those heavy bolters over the course of the game will be firing 9 shots a turn every turn, so they'll be firing 45 shots, and they will easily make up. And I think you're, you know, running the rough napkin math hammer here, you should make your points back, because you'll just be sat there just every turn, just blappering away and, you know, dackering away and firing your big cannon away. So it's definitely something to consider. Okay, the other thing to take into account is the Vanquisher cannon is a very cheap option. Both the battle cannon and the demolisher cannon have additional points involved. I think, you know, 5 points for each one. So the Vanquisher cannon does more damage than the battle cannon against the current meta targets, but it's 5 points cheaper. Okay, so that's again something to be aware of. And it's also, you know, when you start looking at things like we've only compared it to one meta target, which is Plague Marines. I appreciate that's pretty shallow math, but when you look at things like, we've looked at bikes, and we've looked at, you know, heavy intercessors, and we've looked at intercessors with Feel No Pains, but you've also you can look at things like, you know, Plague Marine Terminators, Death Guard Terminators. Battle cannons against those things that just do nothing. You know, if you're doing an average of 2 damage to you know, of killing a plague marine, it's going to take you forever to kill one of those Terminators. It's just so inefficient. Whereas the Vanquisher has a real chance of just, if you get past that 4+ invulnerable save, you have a real chance of just slotting one of those plague marines, because you get 2d6 damage, pick the highest. And those Terminators have got 3 wounds, well, essentially 4 wounds when you take into account the -1 damage. So you just have to get a 4 on one of those 2 dice. Well, that's more than likely to happen when you're rolling d6. You're more than likely, you've got 3.5 chance. You know, it's each one of those dice rolls an average of 3.5, which means you've got 2 chances on the average of getting a 4. So that's really, really good. Anyway, the last thing I was going to say, there was the intimidation factor, there was the points, and then there was the range, which obviously puts you in danger. So those are the 3 factors to take into account when you're looking at the Vanquisher cannon. So am I saying the Vanquisher cannon is, you know, rip all your demolisher cannons, put your Vanquisher cannons on? No. What I'm saying is that it's definitely, variety is the spice of life. If you turn up to the battlefield with 3 demolisher cannon tank commanders, fine, go for it. But I highly recommend that if you are looking at something like Cadians or Vestroyans you can quite easily get yourself up to 4 tank commander equivalents, because with Vestroyans you can put +1 to hit on one of your tanks, and with Cadians you can take Pask as well. Now, it's definitely an idea to have. If you've got your 3 demolished tank commanders, have your 4th tank commander as a Vanquisher. Have him sat at the back. Have him in that fire base. Because whilst all your other tanks are drawing the fire, he'll be sat there just plinking away, killing 1 high value target. It's a sniper rifle. He'll be killing 1 high value target every turn, and that's quite good. Definitely something to consider. Let me know what you guys think down below. If anyone else has got any more deep dive on the Math Hammer, would always appreciate it. And of course, I'll see you guys next time.